Hi, I'm John Waters, and I want to talk to you about a word that seems to have disappeared from the vocabulary of movie moguls these days. The word is showmanship. The first great example of showmanship that I can remember was a movie called Mom and Dad. The nuns in Sunday school told us we would all go to hell if we saw it. And I thought, well, what's so bad about Mom and Dad? Everybody has a mom and dad. In fact, the movie was a boring sex documentary that featured the birth of a baby, which meant they could finally show full frontal female nudity. Male members of the audience were apparently so excited about seeing the female anatomy that they were willing to overlook the baby coming out and concentrate on the nudity. Ew. The genius behind Mom and Dad was a director named Kroger Babb. Not only did he have a phony nurse hawking sex education pamphlets in the aisle before the movie began, he also had the brilliant idea of stirring up controversy by segregating the audience, women only in the afternoon and men only at night. In one of the most outlandish stunts in movie history, he would turn off the ventilation during the film and release noxious gases through the air vents. When the first person passed out, he'd call an ambulance and the media, knowing that the shocked patron would be featured in the next day's paper. But without a doubt, the king of the gimmicks was William Castle. Some people call him the poor man's Hitchcock, but I think he's even better. And I'm dead serious. William Castle was my idol. His films made me want to make films. Forget Ed Wood. Forget The Wizard of Oz. William Castle was my god. The movie, or rather the gimmick, that first put Mr. Castle on the map was Macabre in 1958. The movie itself wasn't much, just a rip-off of Diabolique that he filmed in 9 days for $90,000, but the gimmick was an inspiration. Castle took out a $1,000 insurance policy with Lloyd's of London, insuring every ticket buyer against death by fright. He put copies of the policy in the ads and blow-ups above the marquees, parked hearses outside the theaters, and paid fake nurses to stand around the lobbies. Macabre became a hit. Not because people liked the movie, but because everybody wanted to see if some jerk would drop dead and collect. Of course, nobody died. Too bad. But if someone had, it would have been the greatest $1,000 promotional campaign in movie history. Liberace may have coined the term Mr. Showmanship, but William Castle deserved the title just as much. He would sometimes arrive at his premieres in a hearse and pop out of a coffin. I don't care what you say about other great directors. Would Jean-Luc Godard have gone this far? Would he have arrived in a wrecked car to promote Weekend? Would Sergei Eisenstein have arrived in a battleship? I think not. Castle's next opus, also released in 1958, employed the biggest gimmick of them all, an actual movie star. In The House on Haunted Hill, Vincent Price played a zillionaire who offers $10,000 to his guests if they'll spend the night in his haunted mansion. But even Vincent Price was upstaged by Castle's new gimmick, Emergo. Basically, it was a black box that was mounted next to the screen, and at a certain point in the movie it would pop open and a 12-foot plastic skeleton would light up and fly over the audience on a wire to the projection booth. Everybody threw popcorn boxes at it, and as far as I'm concerned, it was the first audience participation way before the Rocky Horror Picture Show. Next came what is arguably William Castle's masterpiece, The Tingler, again starring Vincent Price, and filmed in a process called Percepto. The Tingler was something that lived in everybody's spinal column, a cross between a lobster and a crab that only came alive when a person was frightened. The only way to kill it was to scream. In the movie, the Tingler gets loose in a movie theater and kills the projectionist. In real theaters where the movie was playing, a voice would announce, "Attention! The Tingler is loose in this theater. Scream! Please scream for your life!"
I'm William Castle, and I feel obligated to warn you about the next attraction you will see at this theater. The picture is The Tingler, which I directed, and for the first time in motion picture history, members of the audience, including you, will actually play a part in the picture. You will feel some of the physical reactions, the shocking sensations experienced by the actors on the screen. I guarantee that The Tingler has more shocks per minute than my last film, The House on Haunted Hill. But don't be alarmed. You can protect yourself. When you see the picture, you will be told, and remember the instruction, how you can guard yourself from attack by The Tingler. And now may I show you a few scenes from The Tingler?
But this wasn't enough for the master of gimmicks. Oh no, Mr. Castle's process, Percepto, which involved wiring little buzzers under the theater seats to zap everyone's fannies, really sent the audience into a frenzy. And if that's not art, then I don't know what is. Next came 13 Ghosts, presented in Illusiono. Each spectator was given a ghost viewer, an obscure twist on 3D glasses. If you looked through the red side, you could see the ghost. If you looked through the blue side, you couldn't. Well, sort of. It didn't work perfectly, but hey, I was 8 years old. In 1960, even Alfred Hitchcock used a Castle-like stunt, which attracted throngs to his shocker, Psycho. The ads announced, "No one will be admitted after the feature has begun."
I've caused you some trouble.
No, Mother, my mother, what is the phrase? She isn't quite herself today.
Some think this may have driven Mr. Castle around the bend. The next year, he came out with his own transvestite thriller, Homicidal, which became the first film in cinematic history to utilize the fright break. 2 minutes before the picture ended, the screen would go black, and the voice of Castle himself would announce, "This is a fright break." If the ticket buyer was too frightened, he would then follow yellow stenciled footprints up the aisle while he was bathed in a yellow light, as Castle would mock, "Watch the coward!" A nurse would then come over, take his blood pressure test, and lead him to Coward's Corner, a cardboard booth manned by a mortified theater employee. Then, and only then, would he be given his money back. What a way to get a refund. Mr. Castle's next gimmick may have been his weakest idea. For his film Mr. Sardonicus, he instituted the punishment pole. Like spectators at the Roman Colosseum, the audience was given day-glow cards featuring a thumbs up or a thumbs down to decide the fate of the villain. Supposedly, he filmed 2 different endings, but audiences always voted the villain thumbs down. Think of the director's cut that could be made if this never-seen merciful ending could ever be found. Next came Strait-Jacket. And with this film, Mr. Castle employed one of the biggest gimmicks in the annals of cinema, Joan Crawford herself, who played an axe murderer in a screenplay by Robert Bloch, the author of Psycho. Miss Crawford herself made personal appearances at theaters, and at one point got so carried away at being a live, in-person gimmick that she invited the whole crowd of ticket buyers to join her for hamburgers at the restaurant next door, thus causing a riot and front-page coverage. At the last minute, Mr. Castle gilded the lily and ordered thousands of bloody cardboard axes to be distributed free to all his fans. Mr. Castle's career of gimmickry limped to a close with I Saw What You Did, another vehicle for his favorite star, Miss Joan Crawford. For this one, the back 3 rows of the theater were turned into a shock section. Unfortunately, all this amounted to was adding seat belts to each one of the theater chairs to prevent you from being jolted out of your seat by fear. Although William Castle went on to produce such films as Bug and even Rosemary's Baby, his days as the king of gimmickry were over.
What have you done to it? What have you done to its eyes?
He has his father's eyes.
What are you talking about? Guy's eyes are normal. What have you done to him, you maniac?
Satan is his father, not Guy. He came up from hell and begat a son of mortal woman. Hail, Satan!
Herschell Gordon Lewis was known as the king of gore, and that was his gimmick, lots of blood and lots of guts. His movies have titles such as Blood Feast, The Gore Girls, The Wizard of Gore, 2000 Maniacs, and The Gruesome Twosome. I may have been crowned the Prince of Puke later in my career, but when I saw teenagers at my local drive-in hopping from their cars to vomit at a Herschell Gordon Lewis triple bill, I knew I had found a director to emulate. I even titled one of my later films Multiple Maniacs, as an homage to Herschell's masterpiece 2000 Maniacs. Many of today's films could benefit from a bit more showmanship and imagination. The possibilities are endless. Every time an expensive Hollywood bomb opens, theaters could make money by letting people in for free and making them pay to get out. You could show Heaven's Gate over and over again and everybody would make a fortune. Or what about the revival houses showing films that nobody wants to see anymore, like Gandhi? Close the concession stand and let the patrons get into the spirit of the thing by starving to death. Get your head out of the sand, Hollywood. People are getting bored with the theater-going experience. Can't you think of something new? Are you going to force everyone to stay at home with their VCRs? William Castle, where are you when we really need you?